Hello guys, welcome back to my another After Effects tutorial. In this After Effects tutorial, we are going to create this. Here you can see, I have already imported the files required for this project. You can download it from below, link in the description. Now let's start creating our product promo. Create a new composition. Name it as slide 0. For this composition, I will set time duration to 2 seconds only. Now let's add the main text. Here I will be using Montserrat font family, style to bold. Here you can set the font size of your choice. Make sure the fill and stroke color is activated. Set stroke width to 3. Now align the text to center. Perfect. Now let's animate the text. Now from animate, from fill, select fill opacity, set fill opacity to 0%. In range selector, at start. Create keyframe for offset. Now go at 1 second. Change offset to 100%. You can see the preview. In advance, change smoothness to 0%. Now again for text layer, go to animate, select opacity. Set opacity to 0%. In range selector, at start of the timer line, create keyframe for offset, set offset to -100%. Now at end of the timer line, set offset to 100%. In advanced, change shape to ramp up. For animator 2, from add, select property, position. Set position value for x-axis to 400. Set easy low to 100%. Now for text layer, press U to view only created keyframes. Select keyframes. Change keyframe assistant to easy ease. Now you need to adjust the speed graph as shown. Perfect. Here our main text is ready. Now let's add the subtext. Here I will reduce the font size. Change style to semi-bold. Perfect. Now let's animate the subtext. In animate, select opacity. Set opacity to 0%. In range select a 1, at start, create keyframe for offset, now at 1 second and 10 frames. Set it to 100%. We will place this keyframe at 1 second. In advanced, change smoothness to 0%. For this text layer, from animate, select position. Add 1 second and 10 frames. Create keyframe for position. Now at start, set position to -300. select position keyframes, change keyframe assistance to easy ease. Now adjust the speed graph as shown. You can see the preview. Perfect. Select both text layers, pre-compose them. Name it as text 0. For this text composition, press P to bring up position, at 1 second, create keyframe for position. Now at start of the timeline. Adjust the position value for y-axis as shown. Select keyframe, change keyframe assistant to easy ease. Now adjust the speed graph as shown. Perfect. Now press S to bring up scale. At end of the timeline, create keyframe for scale. At start of the timeline, change scale value to 200%. Select keyframes, change keyframe assistant to easy ease. Now adjust the speed graph as shown. Perfect. From the project panel, let's add the dots media file to the timeline. Scale this media file. Perfect. Here our slide 1 is created. Here if you want you can adjust the scale and also the position for this text composition. Perfect. Now let's create our second slide. Create a new composition, name it as slide 1. For this slide, I will set time duration to 5 seconds. Now here, first we will add all the text layers, and later on we will animate them one by one. Perfect. Now for this text layer, I will add the shape layer as background. Select the rectangle tool. Make sure fill option is set to solid color, stroke option is set to none. Now let's create the shape in such a way that it hides the text layer completely. Perfect. Place it below the text layer. In Effects and Preset, search for Fill. Add Fill to Shape Layer. Here you can set color of your choice. Now for text layer. Add the fill effect. Change the color for this text layer and shape layer. Here you are free to set any color of your choice. Now we will do the same for price tag. Create shape layer. Place it below the text layer. Now add fill effect, set color. Do the same for text layer. Perfect. Now let's animate the text layer. In Animate, select Opacity, set Opacity to 0%. In Range Selector, at Start, set Keyframe for Offset, set Offset to -100%. Now at near about 1 second and 15 frames, set offset to 100%. Select keyframes. Change keyframe assistant to easy ease. Now slightly adjust the speed graph as shown. In advanced, change shape to ramp up. Change base on to words, set easy low to 100%. Now let's add property, position. Set position value for x-axis to 600. You can see the preview. Perfect. Now for this product description title, you can animate all by own, or you can just add the typewriter effect from effects and preset for the text layer. You can see the preview. Similarly, we will add it to the description. Press U to view keyframes. Position the keyframe at 20 frames, perfect. For product description text, adjust the end keyframe position. Now for this remaining text layer and shape layers. We will create opacity keyframes. At 1 second create opacity keyframe. Now at start, change opacity to 0%. If you want you can also create position keyframes for this layers. Perfect, select all the layers. Pre-compose them. Name it as text 1. Perfect. Now let's create a new composition. This will be our product 1 composition. Set width and height to 1000. Now add the product image to the timeline. Scale it. Place it to the center. Perfect. Now for slide 1 composition, let's add the created product composition to the timeline. Place it below text composition. Now in effects and preset, search for Gaussian blur, add it to the product composition. Set blur value to 20. Now for product composition, set opacity to 20%. Perfect. Now let's create a null object. Parent the product and text composition to null object. For null, press S to bring up the scale. Now at 2 seconds, create keyframe for scales. At start of the timeline, change scale to 400%. Select keyframes, change keyframe assistant to easy ease. Now adjust the speed graph as shown. Here if you think the scale value is more, then you can reduce it. Now place this composition at distance of near about 10 frames. Perfect. Now let's add the product composition to the timeline. Slightly scale the product. Now press P to bring up position. Now at 2 seconds, create keyframe for position. At start of the timeline, change position as shown. Select keyframes, change keyframe assistant to easy ease. Now adjust the speed graph as shown. Perfect. Now let's create rotation keyframes. At start, create keyframe for rotation. At end of the timeline, slightly adjust the rotation. Perfect. Now let's create opacity keyframes. At 2 seconds, create keyframe for opacity. At start, set it to 0%. Place this keyframe at 1 second. Perfect. Now create a new composition. Name it as light leak. For this composition, I will set time duration to 20 seconds. Here we need to change the width and height for this composition to 1920 by 1080 pixels. Now let's create a new solid layer. Name it as color. In Effects and Preset, search for Fill. Add fill to solid layer. Here you can set any color of your choice for this light leak. Now again create a new solid layer, name it as noise. In Effects and Preset, search for fractal noise. Add it to the solid layer. For fractal noise, set contrast to 625. Set brightness to -80. Set complexity to 1. In transform, set scale to 2500. For evolution, while pressing Alt key, click on stopwatch of evolution. Now enter expression, time into 800. You can see the preview. In evolution option, set random seed to 190. Now for color layer. Change track matte to Luma matte noise. You can see the preview. For slide 1 composition, from project panel, add the light leak composition to the timeline. For light leak, change mode to add. For light leak, set opacity to 70%. Now add the cross-media file. Scale it. Place it wherever you want. Search for fill. Add fill to media file. Change fill to white color. Here you can create multiple duplicates of this media file. Place them randomly. From project panel, add the other media files to the timeline. Here you are free to make any changes to the media files. Perfect. You can see the preview. Here our slide 1 is created. Now let's see how to create multiple slides. Create duplicate of this product composition, open it. Replace this product media file with the new product image file. Perfect. Now let's create duplicate of slide 1 composition. Open slide 2 composition. Here we need to replace this text composition. Create duplicate of this text composition. Open text to composition. Replace the text. Perfect. For slide 2, let's replace the text 1 composition with text 2 composition. While pressing Alt key, drag and drop text 2 composition over text 1. Perfect. Now do the same for product 1 composition. Replace product 1 with product 2. Perfect. Now let's create a new composition. Name it as preview. Depending on numbers of slides you have created, you can set the time duration. Here I will set it to just 8 seconds. Now let's add slide 0, 1, and 2 to the timeline. Place them as shown. Now let's create a new solid layer. This will be our background. Place it below. In Effects and Preset, search for Gradient Ramp. Add it to the background layer. Set the background color as shown. Ramp shape to radial ramp. Perfect. From Project Panel, let's add the light leak composition to the timeline. Change mode to add. Let's set opacity to 50%. Now for this slide 1 composition, press P to bring up position, at near about 1 second and 15 frames, create keyframe for position. At end of the composition, change position of the y-axis as shown. Select keyframes, change keyframe assistant to easy ease. Now adjust the speed graph. Perfect. Now let's create a new adjustment layer. Now let's trim this adjustment layer to just 15 frames. We will use this layer as transition layer. Now in Effects and Preset, search for Offset. Add it to the adjustment layer. At 16 frames, create keyframe for Shift Center. At start of the timeline, change offset value for y-axis to -1620. For adjustment layer, in Effects and Preset, search for directional blur. Add it to the adjustment layer. At 16 frames, create keyframe for blur length. Now at center of the adjustment layer, that is at 8 frames, set blur length to 200. Now at start, change blur length to 0. Press U to view created keyframes, select keyframes, change keyframe assistant to easy ease. Now we will place this adjustment layer at 4 seconds and 15 frames. We will trim the slide 1 at 4 seconds and 15 frames. At center of adjustment layer, you can see the transition preview between the two slides. Here you can change the direction of blur to get different angle transition. On the motion blur, here we need to on the blur for all the main text layers, which will be our product name. We will do the same for all main text layers. You can see the blur effect for the text. Now let's create a cinematic frame. Create a new solid. Name it as frame. Double-click on this rectangle tool to create mask. For mask 1, change shape, unit to % of source. Top to 10%, bottom to 90%. Select inverted. Perfect. Now let's see the complete preview. Perfect. Similarly, you can add multiple products and create your promotional video. Thank you guys for watching this video. See you next week with another awesome tutorial.